Over the past 2 decades, a silent epidemic has steadily gained presence in New Zealand. Right now it continues to grow, relating to more than 8,000 preventable deaths last year and costing the healthcare system over $900 million per annum. Whilst it may be silent, there are clear signs of its presence. In the mid-1990s, 1 in 6 New Zealanders were clinically obese. Fast forward a decade, and alarmingly it's now 1 in 4 New Zealanders. Without drastic action, New Zealand is heading towards an obesity disaster. Born in 1947 in Christchurch, New Zealand, David was the oldest of 3 boys. David enjoyed a typical Kiwi upbringing of summers spent at the beach, sailing, camping, swimming, all leading to an active and happy childhood. Yet from his teenage years, issues of weight were prevalent. For the next 50 years of David's life, his weight problems would have a drastic impact and would eventually force him to take extreme medical measures to rid him of this burden. David has come to Auckland's private Southern Cross Hospital to undertake a gastric bypass operation. Suggested by many medical practitioners as the only scientifically proven method to sustain weight loss, halve the patient's risk of cancer, and cure diabetes symptoms overnight. David will have his stomach laparoscopically reduced to the size of his thumb, which will then be reconnected to his lower bowel system. Food intake is then dramatically reduced down to liquids, and bite-sized meal portions are slowly reintroduced into David's life over the coming months. How do you think you're going to cope with the food program itself?
I'm very optimistic about coping with the food program. One lady told me that she has to set an alarm clock to remember to eat. Otherwise she just forgets to eat because she doesn't feel those sort of uncontrollable hunger urges and things to eat too much food. So I'm anticipating getting on with it quite well. I don't think it'll be a major problem for me. My optimum result would be that I would get off my diabetic medication, and I'm almost off it already, only because I'm not eating much food, but my diabetic medication, which involved taking 5 insulin injections a day, plus a number of tablets. I'll be able to get off a lot of my other medication which I'm taking for heart and cholesterol and blood pressure. I anticipate losing quite a lot of weight. Some doctors have said to me you could add 10 years to your life. And also I've been fat for 50 years. I'm quite looking forward to being thin for the next 15 to 20, so it's a change of lifestyle really. To qualify to even have the operation, you have to have a BMI of over 40. You have to have some other ancillary unhealthy attributes. So in my case, I had a BMI of 40. I've always been overweight. I've got diabetes. I've had a heart problem. I've got sleep apnea. So they're all what they call classic symptoms of being a fat prick, basically. And things that will inhibit your length of life and your quality of life. So first of all, the surgeon comes and has a visit, tells you what's going to happen. You're wheeled into the operating theatre, the anaesthetist is there waiting for you, and then the guy says he's going to give you some anaesthetic, and the first bit of anaesthetic I had, I think was a small injection, and then he said that soon you'll go to sleep, and then I heard somebody say goodbye, and the nurse was holding a green thing over my mouth, and that's it. Bing, gone. And then I remember waking up here in my back in my bed, back in my room, feeling very relaxed and comfortable, no dramas, no pain, no nothing.
And so did the operation go smoothly?
No, the operation, I was told later, didn't go smoothly. It normally takes an hour and a half, but apparently this one took 3 hours. And the reason for that, apparently my stomach is a different shape or got some different orientation to it. But so it took a lot longer than anticipated, and then when they test the connections, because they reconnect all your piping, and they test those connections by pumping this blue liquid, looks like Castrol GTX, down you, and apparently mine was leaking, and so they then had to push some tube thing into me, and that ripped some of the staples, and they had to double stitch the whole stomach thing up and all that. So that's roughly all I know about it. But anyway, it took twice as long, so that was why I was under the anaesthetic a lot longer, and that meant recovery times a lot longer. The recovery process now is just, in terms of recovery, just take some basic painkillers, and there's no scars or scabs or anything else to worry about. The major recovery thing from my perspective is I have to keep my fluids up, and that means drinking constantly, because this is a 30 ml container, and I must have 2 of these every hour in the first 2 or 3 days. 2 weeks of liquids, and then I can move on to the wonderful world of pureed food, and that involves basic sort of food that human beings eat every day, but not very much of it, no more than half a cup at any one meal, and it must be pureed in some sort of blender thing. But in essence, you eat what everybody else eats, just far less of it. For example, one lunch in my second 2-week period, one of my lunches is on the menu they give you, half to 1 scrambled egg. Good luck with that one. From someone who normally eats 3 scrambled eggs, 3 rashers of bacon and 4 bits of toast. Hey, I haven't eaten now this is my coming up for 3 weeks. I haven't had any solid food, and I don't even miss it. Don't even think about it. Can do it. In fact, I was thinking to myself this morning, this is too easy. I thought this was going to be really hard to do. You know, I'd have to be really tough on myself, and I'd really miss everything, and I'd be grumpy and fucking getting pissed off with everybody. And I find it really simple to do. I don't even miss what I'm not getting. Talking about my weeks 2 through 4. So once again, I get a schedule every 30 minutes of eat or drink, what I'm supposed to do, right throughout the whole day for 2 weeks. I get some instructions. I get the choices that I'm allowed to have in a broad sense throughout that period. So I've got, say, 6 or 7 options for breakfast here that I could have. So I can have 1 egg, poached. The subject, there's a food that keeps cropping up here, a food that I've never eaten in my entire life. I've always scorned, I've never gone near it, and it's called cottage cheese. I don't even know what it's going to taste like, to be honest, but it's a major feature in here. So for example, a major lunch I can have here is 2 rice crackers, no more than 2, with a topping of, say, some tuna whizzed up with a bit of cottage cheese, and spread 1 teaspoonful on each cracker. 2 of those with a teaspoonful of tuna. That's lunch. Actually, it sounds pretty good. I'm quite looking forward to it. I think I'm getting quite salivating just thinking about it. But then it all has to be pureed. So I can make that little meal. Then I have to get the blender out and go and turn it into like a thick liquid, and then eat it with a spoon for 2 weeks.
Food has changed more in 50 years than it has in the last 1,000 years. Artificial sugars, preservatives and additives are just some of the ingredients wreaking havoc on unassuming consumers. The average supermarket now has approximately 30,000 products on offer, with manufacturers wanting faster, bigger, cheaper consumer goods. The move to long shelf life and convenient food has taken its toll on traditional food suppliers. However, in recent years, the move towards more natural and organic food, whilst unattainable by many, is on the rise.
I've discovered that thing I was talking before about what happens if you have sugar and fat. It's called dumping syndrome. It says dumping is not a good thing. People feel awful when they experience a dumping episode and have ended up in hospital as a result. Symptoms within 30 minutes of eating: nausea, vomiting, faintness, sweating, rapid heart rate, feeling like you're going to die, diarrhea and blackouts. And then what? Dumping, if you have too much fat, cramping, diarrhea. Oh, and here's a nice phrase of something to bear in mind, a nice image to run with: very loose motions with urgency. So basically, you're going to fill your pants.
How does that relate to alcohol consumption?
But what I'm told about this is that, you know, you have your starter and you have a glass of wine and you're anybody's. So right now, if there's a woman out there who's had this operation, call me.
This was someone who was really socially isolated. Do you think it would be just as easy?
Well, I reckon I'm pretty socially isolated. I don't see too many people, really. At the weekend I might see someone, like you might pop over, I might go to Mike's to watch the rugby or something. During the week, I very much live on my own, and like I said, I thought it would be really hard for me. I'm surprising myself. It's coming as a big surprise to me that I find this so easy, when I thought it would be really difficult. I haven't noticed any negative body changes. I'm not taking any insulin to speak of. In comparison, before I'm probably taking less than a tenth, probably 5% of the insulin I was taking before, and yet my blood sugar levels are pretty much constant. If they vary by 2 throughout the day, that's a lot, and that's amazing. I've got more energy. My brain's fizzing over a lot faster. So I think all in all it's been a great exercise so far.
David's recovery takes a sudden turn for the worse when he is rushed to Auckland's North Shore Hospital with severe stomach pains. David has an anxious 13-hour wait in the emergency department before being admitted and transferred to the acute short stay ward for numerous tests and analysis. He anxiously awaits the results to see whether or not something has gone terribly wrong with his operation.
This is still in the second week,
Okay.
so within the first fortnight. And so you may ask, why am I here in hospital? Well, on the 10th I had my big checkup, post-op checkup on the week after the operation, and they told me I was 100% poster boy for the operation. I felt fantastic, no pain, no nothing. And then the very next day I sat down to have my morning drink to start off the day, and 2 or 3 minutes later there's really stabbing pain in my chest and my whole stomach area, and they give you certain instructions that say, if you have any sudden pain, ring the surgeon. I rang in, he said take yourself up to North Shore Hospital. I waited 13 hours at North Shore Hospital, and they put me upstairs here. I'm still in a lot of pain. I've got painkillers, but it's still really painful, and I'm not quite sure what's wrong, and I guess we'll find out.
What were you thinking when you first had the pain? What were your
When
first
I was
thoughts?
first thinking, I thought I might have had a bit of wind. One of the problems is wind, because your stomach is so small that if you gulp a bit of air, it gets inside the stomach, it pressurizes it and makes it feel really sore. So I thought maybe without thinking, because I was feeling so good, I just gulped a bit. In fact, this morning it was really bad. And so I've had the 2 young surgeons in here who work with Michael Booth, who's my surgeon, and they're going to go and call him now, and I'll maybe come back and tell me what they think is wrong, or maybe Michael Booth will come in. So I'm not sure what it is. I hope it's something serious.
So when you were waiting over those 13 hours, any regrets or remorse for doing the operation?
No, not at all, no. In fact, the only thing about it was I had a really sore bum from hanging around all the time and reading, 15-year-old magazines. But no, I didn't have any regrets. Even now today, in the pain I've got here, I don't have any regrets. Because I stagger out to the toilet, look at my face in the mirror, and I'm looking a lot thinner already, I think.
What did they do yesterday in terms of tests?
Not a lot really. There's going to be painkillers and prodded me. And took blood and an X-ray. Sometimes with this operation, particularly with one like mine was a bit more difficult. Sometimes when the swelling reduces, for the bits they've cut about, it can maybe twist a bit, and that can cause a lot of pain or stuff getting jammed in there. But they did an X-ray and they said it was all clear, so presumably it wasn't a twisted bowel.
How are you going to feel if you have to sort of go back in and do another operation?
Well, I guess I'll just say to myself that I can either have all this pain and lie here in a hospital with people with drugs being pumped into me, or I can have another operation and get it fixed. So I'll go for the operation, no problem.